Hello, hello, hello.
What up? What up?
How's everybody doing? People must be hibernating, dude.
Christmas dinner got to him, gave him the itis.
Christmas dinner, dude. That Christmas dinner. Holidays. Holidays. Good for some, not
Yeah,
good for others, man.
yeah,
It's a polarizing subject,
it is.
the holidays. But I'm a little bit under myself, so I'm kind of going through fighting some things off, as you were too, right? Weren't you? Didn't you say you had
Yeah, yeah,
a little something
yep,
going on? But thanks for coming out and hanging out, or coming on and hanging out with us tonight. We were off last week. We
yeah.
both had some previous engagements that we uh, had to deal with. Most importantly, my man was in Cuba or Cuba.
Cuba,
Cuba.
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 It's nice,
And
man. Get to the essence of the music, bro. It was just like, what it made me think about? You go to New Orleans and there's always some type of second line band somewhere. And culturally, you think, oh, wow, can everybody in New Orleans just play music? It's just like everybody just came into that lineage, and you see in Cuba it's the same way. You see like neighborhood bands, all these other things, but it's just like you kind of put into that situation a lot,
mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can't even explain what happens with second line music. Those cats are just playing it, and the same thing happens with man, I was just listening to the bass player on one gig, and I was like, "Man, how is he doing that? He's rock solid. I don't even hear beat one. I know where beat one is, and
Mm-hmm.
he's singing background parts too." I was like, "How is this cat doing that?"
Yeah, it's in his DNA.
Right, exactly.
And that's a great a great analogy is the second line and
Right,
New Orleans music. And you guys don't, I mean, that's what you've heard since you basically could hear anything. As
right. I've
you've heard
never
that
thought to
music.
analyze and say, "This is what you do in this
Never thought
situation."
about it.
Right,
Never even thought about it, man.
right,
um but what's so funny is how the translation uh of those particular styles get polluted
yeah,
down the right. It's
yeah,
like, how does, I mean, well, we know how it happens, let's start,
right,
but
right.
it's
Polluted and diluted.
polluted and diluted, right?
Yep.
Because it's like, there's certain things that I didn't grow up in New Orleans, but I was like, well, who am I going to study for second line? I'm going to study Zig, and I'm going to study Hurlin, and I'm going to
Right,
study, I'm going to study those guys, and I'm going to
right,
hear what they do. I'm just going to try to emulate. I'm not going to
right.
pretend like I know, but I'm going to try to emulate kind of what they do. And and then just kind of, but it's crazy when you hear I guess examples of that from others, and you're like,
Right,
where did you get that from? And it's the same thing
right.
with the Cuban stuff,
And the names that you mentioned, they're great guys, but some of the guys you've never heard of, like this cat named Charlie Brown in New Orleans.
hmm and
Killing dope.
they were probably checking him out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Shannon Powell, all those cats was checking him
Yeah.
out.
Right.
But regular people wouldn't even know who Charlie Brown is.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I don't even know Charlie Brown's real name. That's what we called him.
Right.
I don't know what his real name is.
Right. Or those kids, man. I remember the last time I was in New Orleans, we were in the French Quarter, and just these young kids. The feel, I was like, I got nothing even close to that. Playing playing the same rhythm.
Right.
But I was like, man, they are on a whole nother thing with this, because
Right.
they live it, right? I think the difference is when you live something, it's gonna come out differently,
Right.
you know. But hey, thanks for joining us. We're getting a few people in right now. We are just sort of getting back into the rhythm of the show. We were off last week. If you're checking us out on Facebook, thank you for that. Or Instagram. We can go live on Instagram now.
Yeah, just sort of.
I saw that, but we got to you have to kind of do that individually. So haven't messed too much with that yet, but I did check it out. We will be doing that as well. If you're on the YouTube, please like us on YouTube and give us a thumbs up for the show. Again, I'm a little bit under the weather, and my man is coming off a little something as well. But we had to come out and do this end of the year show. It's going to be the last show. Well, unless
Oh,
we
for
decide to do
2023?
another impromptu show later this week, depending on how we're feeling. But in
Yeah.
terms of Chop It Up Tuesdays, this will be the last Chop It Up Tuesday of the year. And there's a couple things that we wanted to just talk about that are tricky for not just musicians, maybe a lot of different people in different aspects, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people can get something from this because,
Yeah.
you know, uh jobs, and you think that you're locked into a job and you're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to do what we're about to
Mm-hmm.
talk about next.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that kind of in a second, but we're gonna talk a little bit about, man, talk about your experience in Cuba, and just a little bit about what that was like, man. Tell us about that.
Man, it wasn't it was an education, and also was like anybody who goes outside of America and experiences a country. I mean, I would go ahead and say it's a third world country. They're living in some kind of situation that it's not modern at all, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, they're dealing with it. Dude, the crime, there's no crime out there because the police, the police federales, bro, they don't play.
Right.
They know not to do anything. I was, reading all this stuff about, you got to be careful, pickpockets, stuff like that. Man, we didn't have nobody try to do us anything out there.
That's because jail in a third world country is a whole.
Right, right. But it's like a throwback because you see all the old American cars and stuff, and they barely
Right,
have
right, right.
any modernization with anything. And then it's just like makes you realize how blessed we are to be in this country, but also at the same time, it makes you think. Me and Dave was like sitting on a balcony after just checking out some music and going different places. A simpler life, bruh.
Simpler. I was just having a
It was like,
conversation
whoa.
about with a friend of mine that we both grew up together in Rockford. And
Right,
we were talking about that. We were like, man, just even Rockford being a smaller town, or,
right.
kind of off the grid, even though it's a big small town, but it's still a small town. We were like, man, what would have happened if we stayed here? And the first thing out of his mouth goes, man, things would be a whole lot simpler, man.
Whole lot simpler, bruh.
Whole lot simpler. So
I mean, without internet access 24 hours a day, dude, it forces you. Like the cab drivers didn't have GPS. They knew where everything at, and if they didn't, they
knew
would stop
everything
and
was
ask somebody, bruh. I mean,
right.
you don't have that luxury, and I say it's a luxury. But the music was I felt closer to the source of music out there
Mm-hmm.
than I ever felt anywhere. It was
Mm-hmm.
definitely education. I'm gonna go back. We met some guys in an airport. This was a genius idea. The guy went and recorded this guy playing percussion, bunch of loops, and they're selling the loops and gonna give the royalties to the guy.
Mm.
And he's like, they recorded at a studio out there. The studio was real nice and stuff. And I was
Wow.
like, there's an idea.
Wow.
Go to Cuba and record. And,
Interesting.
and I sat in at a place, and you know how that old pundit that music is a universal language. it's true. I mean, my
Mm,
Spanish is not on that level. So we went to this club and there was a piano keyboard there and nobody was playing it. Oh, dude, I got some footage I'm gonna share with you. But this had this chick playing electric bass. She was killing.
mm,
And so I kind of went up there because they looked like they had a sign-in sheet or something. And I asked this lady, I was like, y'all take sit-ins or something like that. She's like, "What do you play?" I said, "Piano." She's like, "Do you know that song?" They were playing Autumn Leaves. I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Go up there right now." So I looked on. I was like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah." So I go up there and they're looking at me, and I start playing. And like, wow, okay, cool. I ended up playing almost the whole first set. So,
wow.
but there was no communication, and so
Mm,
my brother Dave was like, "This is a lesson to your students right here. If you're prepared, you can play in any situation." So here's something funny that happened.
mm,
I did like this for the key because they said she would say a song and they would just start playing, right? I'm like, what key y'all doing it in? So the guy said said on one key, the key of B. I was like, okay, cool. I know B. I played B. I didn't realize in Spanish music and German music, I had forgotten about this. B is actually the key of B flat,
mm.
and the key of H is B. So they played in B flat when I played in B. So you could imagine that was a big old clash. And I was like, oh. But music is a universal language, man. I can get in there and play with these cats and dialogue and never say a word to each other. So that was
Right.
really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you just said that about what Dave said about preparation.
Yeah.
And I have a post-it on my desk that says preparation meets opportunity, you know.
Mm,
And
that's good.
when you're and I think about that a lot in terms of just always trying to, you never know what's going to come your way. You never know what
Right.
situation you're going to be thrown in. So
Right.
that was a good example of
Yeah.
of that, man. So well, that's cool, man. You need to do a little documentary on your, even though you were only there for 4 days, I think,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um and you didn't really get to see a whole lot of stuff, right? You guys were
No,
in
we were in Havana, but um, I talked to our good friend Frankie Quiones, and he said the heavy hitters are in this place called Miramar, which is like 30 minutes away, but sometimes it starts at midnight, and we're like, well,
yes. Yep.
so Dave was like, hey, bro, next time we go back, we'll get an Airbnb in Miramar.
Okay.
You don't want to travel back.
Right. Trying to get back. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
man. Well, that's cool, man. I've had a couple opportunities to go. It just never worked out. So
but we got to go. Let's go and record down there,
well, that
man.
sounds good to me. That
Yeah.
sounds real good to me, man.
How's your arms and wrists, bro?
Man, hey, it's been. I'm not even gonna. It's been a blessing, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
played. We were on close to 14 days straight
Right.
with just the holiday work. Shout out to everybody I worked with. Joe Granston does a great job with lining up all his Christmas shows for an entire week. So that was the last part of that was just doing all the shows at the Roswell
Mhm.
Cultural Arts Center and over at the Capital City Club and then Eddie's Attic. And man,
Yeah, you really started like our first Christmas gig was like November something. You just been
November
going since
14th. Actually, we had November 14th was our first. Wasn't it?
right.
I think that was the first one. So
Yeah,
starting
man, you
early,
just been
man.
going on a world tour.
So it's yeah, but I'm a little. My hands are a little shot. So, but this is the business we've chosen, and
Yeah.
no complaints, man. No complaints at all. But it's actually been cool, man. Had some great crowds. It's good to see people out, just
Yeah.
out supporting live music, supporting concerts, supporting, whatever what other people are doing. So
Mhm.
um so that was a cool thing to to kind of see. And I know everybody's in that mode. You get sick of the Christmas music. Christmas, if you're doing, whether it's the the R&B cats are doing their versions of all those songs. The jazz cats are doing their song. The gospel cats are doing their versions of those songs. So, so it's all good. But the holidays it's an important part of the year. I think it's a good just the whole sort of trying to get the family back, get the families together and what all that means and stuff. But but this end of the year can be tricky for some people, and I think for musicians, because stuff is, I don't know about you, man, but stuff is moving. It just seems like things are at hyperspeed now. I was talking to my wife about that. She was, feeling this like, I can't believe that it's already the end of the year, man. And so things are moving quicker. We have to plan for more things during the year because this stuff just goes by so quickly now,
Right. Right.
So we're gonna talk about a couple of those things. We got some cats in the chat. I'm gonna acknowledge a couple of comments. John Lamatina,
Okay.
who's this is the gentleman that I told you about that started taking lessons with me. 73 years old, I believe, right, John?
Oh yeah.
And never stopped learning, man. Just a
Nice.
great cat, great individual, man. He teaches up in Lawrenceville and reached out to me just to try to get some different ideas and some different concepts. So John's here with us. Good to see you. I will see you on Thursday, my man.
Has John started trading symbols like you do?
I don't know
careful,
about
John.
that, man. Well, he's got his eye on a couple things, but I don't know if I'm going to let those go right now. So our brother Ali Bars
Just talked about Ali, man.
Just talked about Ali. So Ali says, "What's up, brothers?" And we got our brother Eastern Promises.
Misha, what's happening? Hey, bro, I haven't forgot to download those files, bro. I'm gonna do it tonight.
All right. So, and everybody else that's hanging out with us, we really appreciate it. Give the show a thumbs up on YouTube. That helps us out a lot. And we got some cool ideas for 2024. This has been a slow process. This is episode number 21, I believe. So we are slowly but sure. Oh, whoa. So I gave John I'm down 3 years, just turned 76.
I didn't know Josh Baffert was your student.
That's the I couldn't remember this. He told me about that. So
yeah, Josh was at Kennesaw. He was in my combo at Kennesaw, and then went to Georgia Tech. He's an engineering major.
Yeah.
Okay, John.
Yeah,
Josh, man, you did a great job with Josh, man.
So that's our connection there.
Nice.
And then our brother John Chalden. Merry Christmas, fellas. What's up? Well, I know he's been dealing with some crazy stuff going on, coughing and all that stuff with him. So hopefully he's feeling better.
I would tell Charlton to break a leg, but he probably would do it because he broke his.
That's what friends are for, man. That's what friends are for. I mean, you getting just man. He's gonna come back with something though.
Hey, John, did you get a metronome for Christmas?
Damn. And John Lamatina just says Josh is top notch. All right.
Charlton's a stickler on that metronome, bro. I'm glad for it too.
Yeah, man. So you and I, we've had our private discussions about dealing with certain situations, and have, I think, over the last couple of years have made a lot of changes in terms of our path, our career paths, and cutting things loose that were not beneficial to us, because that's what I mean. It is survival of the fittest for the most part. Right. But as an independent contractor, I guess let's break that down, right? So,
right.
As an independent contractor, you are pretty much at the mercy of people hiring you
Yeah.
to make a living. That's in any business. If you're a plumber, if you're a if you're an electrician, unless you work for a company um, that just sends you out on jobs, which a lot of people do, but a lot of times as artists, we don't really have that luxury, right? We're doing people. A lot of people want that. They wonder how this business works. How do you get work? I get that question a lot. How do you get
It's
work?
relationships all the way.
And that's the first thing I tell them. I said, well, a lot of the people that I'm working with have been the same people that I've worked with for 25 plus years.
Right.
You rarely get, you get new inquiries, but for the most part, you're dealing with people that you've had long lasting relationships with over the years, and that's what you call your kind of bread and butter, right?
Right.
So, but I was thinking about a term that's often used in the business world, and that term is cutting your losses. And so, when you talk about what that means, I guess for in that world, it would mean to stop an activity, business, etc. uh that is falling in order to prevent more losses or damage, right?
Mhm.
So can we apply that to what we do? you know
Yeah.
I often thought, because the first thing that I think a lot of independent cats are afraid of is losing work. That's the first thing that man, I can't lose that gig. I can't lose this gig. I can't lose that gig. Well, there are certain situations where that gig might be holding you back from doing some other stuff. It may be cutting off a potential path to something that is greater. How do you navigate that? How do you negotiate that? That's the tricky thing, because the first thing that comes up for us is, obviously the bills don't stop, right?
Right.
So you're thinking about whatever certain amount of money that particular thing brings you in per week or per month, depending on how often that you do
Mhm.
it, right? But there are certain cases, man, where there's another phrase that's called all money's not good money. And it takes, I think, a little bit of well, first it takes you have to kind of break things. You have to be willing to kind of humble yourself to um sort of look at where you really are versus where you want to be, right? That's the first
Mhm.
thing you got to kind of do. And then once you sort of figure that out, you have to start chopping off certain things that might be in your life or in your career at that time that is just not a positive situation, regardless of what the money is. I've heard guys who uh have cut, they've chopped off tours or making records with certain people, and it's like, and the money is incredible, but they're like, man, it wasn't it my life was not good while I was doing that. I had
Yeah.
to find something else to do. So in on our scale, we're not really doing a lot of tours, or and we're not making a whole lot of records anymore, just because that business is completely different now. So you have to find other ways to supplement your income. But how do we start making those decisions of cutting your losses? What's your opinion about that?
Well, when you're dealing with a self-employment kind of situation, you're always dealing with relationships and how you deal with that. And so I have two brothers. One brother is a principal of a high school, never had to work as an independent contractor. My brother Dave is a freelance person who does work. So he deals with contract, but he also has a regular job. And here I am on the other extreme where I'm an independent contractor, right? So I remember Don's wife, Desi, was like, if anything happens with the school thing, you need to do like David and Tyrone and, get some other business going on. And me and Dave just looked at Don and said, don't do it, bruh.
Mm.
It's like when you get paid at the end. That's like sometimes you have to like call up a person because you can't kill a relationship, right? So you instead of saying, "Hey, where's my money?" You got to call up and say, "Hey, man, how's everything going?" The person says,
Mm.
"Okay." Hey, by
Mm.
chance, did you pay me for that last gig? I don't know if I got it. Or you have to sugarcoat it a certain way, you know?
Mhm.
If somebody
Mhm.
hasn't paid you, have to just be on a relationship in like, okay, I need this to happen. You're like, hey, I'm looking through my invoices. I didn't see a check for this, something. Eventually, you get tired of those kind of situations. And that's one of those points where you can cut a person because they're being funny with the money or not. The gigs are not like they were supposed to be. They always hiring a sound man that's garbage or whatever. I mean, just one of those things where you're just like, I just can't take that anymore, you know?
Mhm.
So in those events, as you're forming relationships, just like in your life, you got to cut some loose for you to progress. And
Mhm.
I had a great mentor in New Orleans, who's a saxophone player, and he caught me at oh, it's crazy. Here's another little advice for people if you're going to school. Always make friends with the secretary or even in life. So this guy named Greg came to UNO to find a piano player because his piano player, Daryl Levine, killing piano player, was just taking off, right? And everybody wanted Daryl. So he needed to find a new a new piano player. So he came to UNO, went to the office, didn't know anybody. Secretary was cool with me, so she gave him my name first, called me first, and then I was able to get the gig. So he one day he said, "Hey man, where are you going to be at? I would love to check you out." I said, "I have a gig in the French Quarter." He says, "Hey man, do not take the gigs in the French Quarter."
Mhm.
I was like, "What?" He's like, "Man, that's all." He said, "You're going to work 5 days a week. You're going to get accustomed to that lifestyle. You're not going to be able to take any other gigs anywhere else." And he said, "You will not grow." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Trust me." So I started gigging with him, and maybe 4 or 5 years later, I went to the French Quarter. Cats was playing the same music. They were doing the same things. They was only getting paid $15 an hour, so they was hoping for overtime. They could leave their gear there. It made them lazy. They were
Mhm.
getting into drugs, all kind of other, relationships and stuff. And he was exactly right. You have to cut your losses in that situation just to get out of it. So
Mhm.
thank God I never had to just stay in it. But I'm glad I had a great mentor that said, "Hey man, you got to not do this anymore. Cut your losses and get out of there."
Mhm. Well, so that's a situation that you were able to avoid, right?
Yes.
So what about a situation that you've been in maybe for a little while, and you've been working with, the same person or the same band or the same people, and you are starting to, um, feel a certain type of way about, your what you're bringing to the situation versus maybe what you're being compensated for.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe you've been working, doing the same, working with these same people for a while, and you've been, again, you're bringing a certain level of, profession, not just musically, right? But we often
Right.
talk about, you know, um, one of the main reasons that that a lot of people end up working is not always because they're necessarily a great musician. They're competent. They're good enough to where they can play the gig and they can play the gig okay, but it's all the other things that they bring to the gig. They're easy to work with, they're on time, they look a certain way, they look the way the leader wants them to look. All of those little things add up to you getting more work, more than just how good you are. You know,
Right,
you could be
right.
great, but if you're late all the time, if you come in not looking how you're supposed to look, if you're always questioning what's going on, people are not going to want to deal with that. So, there's certain guys that I would even include us is that I feel like we bring a lot of the complete package
Mhm.
to the table, right? So when you bring that complete package to the table, um, and then you might be in a situation where you're like, you know what, I've been doing this for X amount of months or X amount of years or whatever, and it's like, and it's not it's not going in the direction that I feel like it should go in. Um, Trying to make those decisions about, you know what, this situation is not going to be good for me anymore.
Right, right.
Those I think are the most difficult ones to make because you don't want to, first of all, you don't want to alienate anybody. You don't want to, and all, but the main thing that you're afraid of is you're like, man, if I cut this off, that is X amount of dollars that's coming into my account every, you could just take a, like, if you hear a lot about this in the church world of guys that they're at one church, they've been playing there for X amount of months or years, usually it's years, right? And then they end up going to another church most of the time based on what this church is going to pay them
Mhm.
more, right? But every now and then you do hear about, man, I went to this church, I'm actually going to make a little bit less
Mhm.
because
The situation.
the situation is much easier, it's much more um there's a heck of a lot more sanity going on in this new situation than
Right,
it was in this old situation. But
right.
those are just certain situations. But what's your, if you've been in something for a while and it's like, you know what, I don't even care what this is not a good situation for me. This is
Yeah.
affecting my life in a negative way. Um, what do you think about, what's your advice on trying to make those changes?
Well, it's always tricky because when you play in a band and people make you feel like you're necessary to their band being successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we look, there's a lot of great piano players, a lot of great drummers, there's a lot of great
Mm-hmm.
saxophone players. But with our own ego involved, we really want to be the first call. We want to
Right.
really be able to deny your gig if we can do, but we
Mm-hmm.
want the call,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so ego comes into play and you're like, okay, I'm needed. I'm good. But then at the same time, am I really needed for this situation? And I find for myself, it's like,
Right.
hey man, I'm a person that likes to help, right? But I'm not getting paid any extra money to help or be an MD or whatever.
Right. Right.
And so
Right.
at some point I have to say, well, what is my value? Is my value to this group because they know I'm going to do my homework? I was doing this gig, and we know who this person is, but they say that they have charts for the gig. But I always come with my own charts anyway, or my own things because
Right.
I've been in enough situations where as a piano player, the charts don't give you the whole story. And I think we had a
Yeah.
shop on a Tuesday about that, right?
Right.
The music is not going to tell you everything. But I like to be prepared for a rehearsal, so I'll do my homework. And this other cat came up and said, "I'm just going to look over your shoulder."
Right.
I'm like, "Okay." No, that's not what happened. I said, I said, "Man, how late did you stay at working on this music?"
Right. I know what you meant though,
Right,
but
right.
when you paraphrasing it.
He was like, well, actually, I didn't spend any time because I knew you were going to have a chart for it. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to watch TV, hang out with the kids, do all kind of stuff because you knew I was going to be prepared. But what about the time that I lost? And then
Mm-hmm.
that right there, that taught me, well, if they're not paying you extra, then you will have to teach them some type of lesson for them to pay you extra. And that lesson would be is if you want me, you gotta be able to afford me. But now in hindsight, I'm like, they need me more than I need them. So, like you said, washing your hands of it is hard because you look at, hey, this is potential work and money in my pocket. But I always feel funny after I do the gig. I always say to myself, man, never again. Or I
Never,
knew
man.
this is, I beat myself up.
But how many times have we said that, man? I mean,
When do you get to that point where you're like, is enough is enough? And so with this one person, I had to be like, that's it. You know, I didn't
never
want to just
again.
curse him out or anything like that. But that's not my nature anyway. But you know, you don't want to burn down a bridge, but you know, hopefully they get the point after
Well,
you're
but
not available.
that's an interesting point because that, man, in my opinion, I mean, this is I'm not telling any young people, I'm not telling anybody to do this, but some bridges, it's so
Yeah, you ain't
it's
crossing over
actually
that anymore.
it's actually makes sense to burn them,
Oh yeah, because you know what's on the other side.
you know, and I can't remember if I guess I maybe talked about this. It seemed like I talked about this maybe last in the last couple of shows, but there's a scene in The Bronx Tale, and which is loosely based on Robert De Niro's life, where he's sort of like he loans this dude $20,
Right,
and he's but the guy's not going to pay him back. And he's
right. But he's
every time he
avoiding
sees
them.
him, he's
Yeah,
avoiding him, he's chasing him, whatever, you know. And then this older gangster dude who's kind of taking De Niro's character under his wing. He's like, man, why are you chasing this cat for 20? He's like, man, he owes me $20. He goes, dude, you just got this guy out of your life for $20.
yeah. I remember that scene.
You feel, so I think, man, there's a little bit of wisdom in that.
Yeah,
Is that, because man, I just feel like, man, if you're always trying to, and I guess it just depends, but if, trying to make everybody love you, everybody like you, you don't want anybody to be upset with you. You don't want everybody, that takes years off your life
does.
that you could have, because it's like you're just constantly trying not to make people, but it's like, man, the real world, that's not the real world. And it's not like you have to have these enemies that, you guys are, going to try to fight and kill each other or something like
No.
that. But it's not everybody's meant to, not
And
everybody's meant
some
to
people
work
can
together.
survive in those situations. You know, like I uh, I kind of cut my losses with this one person, and then they kept calling me, and about 2 years later, I said, you know, it's the summer, gigs are kind of sparse. I'll take it.
Right.
As soon as I did the gig, it
What
reminded
happened?
me. I was like, oh, I
Right.
thought things would have changed, but it's the exact same thing.
Right.
And it's not a knock on them. That's what they do, but it's not what I am, you know? So I was
Right.
like, oh, now this
Right.
is the last one. It's like eating some crystal burgers late at night, and you're like, oh, then your stomach is like blown up, and then you're like, never again will I eat crystal burgers.
Right.
Then one day, about a year later, you're like, I'm kind of hungry. You get a crystal burger, you're like,
Right.
oh, I
Right.
forgot about
Well,
this.
there's a lot of, see, but that's a great, you know, it's kind of because most people aren't going to change.
Right, right,
Most situations, you know, are going to be the same. It's up to you to make that decision
right,
of, what you're walking into.
right.
You know what you're walking into. You know this person, how these, whatever it is, we're talking about, gigs or sessions or whatever in our world.
What
You
about
know
clubs? There's certain clubs you don't play in.
certain clubs. I mean, I haven't really had any, I mean, other than you, I haven't had any real discussions about that, but I'm like, well, I guess I have. I have talked to a couple of other cats about that, but that's not always a popular decision to make, because again, people are worried about what may happen in the future, who might call. Like, I don't care who's calling me.
Right.
You at some point you have to you have to have faith in yourself. I think that's
Right.
the and would you say that's one of the harder things to because
It
to me
is.
it's like
Your value is your value of
you
your
bet on
time.
yourself, man. You bet
Right.
on yourself. You know,
Right. You got
and
to.
again, it comes down to, you know, obviously having faith. You have faith in God, or if you have faith in whatever your, you know, whatever your
Belief system.
spiritual center, yeah, belief system is. But at some point, you have to leave it up to that, you know, and because you can't control everything. You can't control everything,
Right.
but you have to make decisions based on um what's best for your lifestyle. You know, I like to live a drama-free, stress-free lifestyle, and there's a lot of people that do not. They live in drama and stress. If that's how that it's just a part of their lives.
Right.
It's how they survive. I mean, but I don't. You know, I've had situations where I know cats who live in that who end up coming into. They might come into a situation that maybe I've been playing in. I'm not necessarily the leader, but I'm gonna let them know. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't bring that over because this person's not gonna. They don't listen, and they're not there
Right.
for very long. But
Right.
I tried to tell them. I tried to
Right.
tell them that. I said, man, this is not gonna be the place for what normally happens for what you used to. I said, you need
Right.
to leave that over, you know. And I've had 2 or 3 situations like that.
Yeah.
Didn't listen, didn't get the call back. And I was like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, you know. But those kinds of things, because it's just, man, like I said, we work with a lot of people who, dude, they may not hire they're going to hire somebody who can play the gig, not necessarily kill
Kill
the
again.
gig.
Mhm.
And we understand why they do that sometimes. It's like, man,
Right.
I'd rather and as a band leader jumping back into that chair, you know, you're not so much in that chair at the present time, but you have been in the past and you will be again in the future. You understand what that's. It's like, man, I'm not going to deal with even on the gigs that you end up booking. It might be just small, but I've seen what you do. You're like,
Mhm.
man, I'm not calling this cat. There's no
Nope.
way.
Never.
I'm not gonna call this cat, even though I love how he plays, or I love how
Yeah.
she sings, or she plays, or whatever.
I don't like negative people in my gig. Like, oh, I sucked today. I did it. Bruh, I don't need that to bring me down because I pick up on those. I don't want that, man.
Well, that's
Don't
the
be
last thing
negative.
as a lead. The you don't want any noise
No.
because it's hard enough to be you're trying to calculate every second of plus you've got other things that you have to deal with that so
Right.
the last thing you need is again our great friend Carla Harris asked me a question the other day. I talked to
Mhm.
her on the phone. She said, you know, you made an interesting comment about bass players. And I said, what's that? She's like, well, you said that you want your bass player to be invisible. And she said, you know, I was trying to think about that. And she goes, I think I understand what you mean, but what did you exactly mean by that? And I said, well, I didn't mean to. I mean, we were talking about bass players at the time, but it was
Mhm.
more of if I had to even think about what this person is going to bring, if any other thing other than positivity to the situation, it's going to be a wrap because it's already stressful enough having to deal with all the things that you have to kind of deal with as a leader. That's why I feel like, you know, most great sidemen have been leaders at some point, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
or they understand what that role is like, you know. I mean, some guys have been sidemen all their life and they're just that's what they do and they're great at it. But the more invisible you are, man, that's going to be the better for your longevity, you know.
Right. Right.
And you know, when it comes back to, you know, sort of talking about what we're talking about here in terms of cutting losses, that's kind of like what I feel like. I mean, if I've got a situation where they're constantly man, so okay, so you can probably speak about this too. the 1,000 text messages a day about nothing, the 1,000 emails about nothing. It's like, I don't, I'm here to play. I'm gonna be on time. You send me the set, whatever. I don't need all this other extra activity that you're bringing to the situation, and
What about
capital letters, no excuses to be late. It's like, have I ever been late on your? I talked to another friend of mine about that not too long ago who was working with somebody, and he called the cat up. He was like, "Man, why are you sending me this?
right?
This don't have anything to do with me." Well, I was just sending it out so that everybody was. But no,
I
that's
hate
not
the
how
ones
you
that I
do
gotta
it.
fish for. Give me the information. Hey, are you available January 2nd? Okay, where, when, how much? I mean,
Right.
give me the details. Stop making me, and that turns me off too, because I'm like, dude, it feels like I'm being set up because you're gonna try to corner me into doing a gig. Then you're gonna let me know the details later because I said that I could do it. You know, it's
That's
all those different
yeah,
things.
well, and especially, man. I'm sorry not to cut you off, but just to think about that, because it's like, if that's different than coming with someone that you work with all the time.
Yes.
If there's somebody that you work with all the time, even though those people that you work with all the time necessarily wouldn't come with that, right?
Right.
But if
Exactly.
if I sent you a text, what you doing on this date or whatever,
Right.
okay, you're going to respond to that because you know that whatever happens after that is going to be kosher.
Right.
But
Exactly. I don't
even
even
though
have to
I
ask
wouldn't,
for all that.
even though I wouldn't do that,
Right.
even though you
Exactly.
wouldn't do that, or whoever the people that we work with closely would never really do that.
Right.
But that is it's code, and you have to kind of have the experience to know when people are sending you code and when people
Exactly.
are not sending you code. So
And you
uh
don't want to play those games. You get fed up and like, okay, never again.
well, it's like you're chasing them for information.
I had this particular person. I worked with her 3 times, and each time, I don't know why she maybe is power tripping, but each time I have to chase her down for the money.
Right.
The last time I played a gig with her, I said, "Hey," I'm about to say her name. I said, "Hey, we got 2 sets, 3 sets." I said, "Can you give me the check now so I can pay the band members?" And she's looking at me like, "I'm going to give you the check." I said, "Okay, I just want to, because you're organizing this event as well, so you're going to be in demand. That way, when the cats pack up the instruments, they can get out of here, whatever." She's like, "Okay." Second set, no check. I finally look for her all over the place, find her. I said, "Hey, is this a good time to get the check?" She's like, "I'm going to get you the check." I'm like, "What?" Soon as the gig is over with, I tell a bass player, I was like, "Man, just go home. I'll bring you the money." Right,
Right.
dude. I'm asking her for the check over and over again. You know what she finally does?
What?
Reaches into her purse, which has been there the whole time, and takes out the check and hands it to me.
Wow.
I said, "What is this power trip? What? Why does she do this?" So I said, "Okay, that's it." I was like, "I got paid for the gig, but look all the hoops I had to jump through.
Right.
I came to your gig early. You didn't have to go through those hoops with me. When you said learn the songs, you didn't have to jump through those hoops. I didn't say, oh, let me listen to it on the break. I'll get out." No, I was prepared. I came up with good equipment. I
Mm,
came with dutiful cats. I'm the band leader. I hire these cats. Come on, man. Pay me on time. So at some point, that's considered a loss, right? That's a loss because I'm like, you are making me lose brain cells, time, bandwidth over this crap. And you're gonna keep doing it.
that's right.
I had the bandwidth for this, bruh. Yeah, Vinny, don't mess with the money. You're right, bruh.
I mean, I'm at I just did a show. I got to pay these guys tomorrow because I've been waiting on a corporate. You know how these corporate gigs are, right?
Net 30 or so, yeah.
Man, but as the band leader, I
Yeah,
kind of had to be. I said, you know what? I got to pay these guys.
yeah.
And it's been a couple of weeks. It's been early this, and it's just like, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, but I'm like, you know what? That's not their fault.
Right, 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 right.
So and everybody, it. is cool about that and it's not hurting for, but it's just the you want to keep that professional relationship there,
Right, right.
but these people will make and that's a whole different conversation, man, is like um dealing with the corporate world of trying to get paid, trying to get things done, but
I got a
going back
question for
to.
you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What about, we've been talking about gigs and that, but what about cutting your losses as far as a person that's in your band?
Hmm.
Like the cat absolutely can play, has a great feel,
Right.
all this
But
kind of stuff.
just drama.
Drama.
That's a great, man. I personally, I've never had to personally necessarily deal with that, but
Mhm.
I know other people who have had to deal with that. And man, that's a tough one. That's a tough situation.
Yeah.
And actually the cat might be, he might actually be a good person, but it's just one thing after another, you
Yes.
know.
We know a particular bass player like that.
Yeah, and
This bass player, I got him on a gig, and it was a nice, elegant gig. Told the cat he had to wear a suit. He wore a suit, came to the gig, and the singer is trying to call an audible while the song is going on. She's like, I want to go into this song. Well, you can't hear her. So instead of him just like asking one of us, what did she say? Or whatever, it's like, I can't hear you.
right.
Who said, what the F are you talking about? I was like, bro, I'm the
Mhm.
one called you for this gig, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna have to cut you. You got a great feel, whatever,
Mhm.
bro, but you got to get cut. And a lot of gigs that he's been on, we just look at him, it's like, man, it's a good cat, but all this other stuff go along with it, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's
You make, I mean, I would say you make decisions. You have to make, you hear it all the time in sports
right.
of,
Antonio
you
Brown.
know, what does this guy, what you have to make a decision based on, okay, what does he actually bring to your situation versus the drama that comes along with that. Can you do, what's the last straw for a lot
Right.
for for a lot of those guys, I
Right.
mean, um so personally, I can't really, I don't know if anybody in the chat has had to deal with that, but I haven't had to deal with that one. I've had to cut, people that I've worked with over, which is, over time, and just not, just stop taking the gigs, man.
Mhm.
Stop taking them, you know. Well, Vinny brings up an interesting point, is got to be fair to the rest of the band. You have to think about everybody, because man, you've been in situations where there's been that one cat that everybody has an issue with on some level,
Right.
right?
Right.
On some level, but the leader will not cut this guy loose.
Will not.
Will not cut this guy loose. Everybody has an issue, right? And
Yes.
you're just waiting. You're waiting for the last straw to drop, because you're like, it's coming, but can I wait that? I don't think I can wait that long. This guy, it's just it's excruciating, right? You're
Right.
in a situation where you're like, man, this gig's coming up and I got to deal with this cat. You know,
Look,
like,
have you seen
can
the
I still,
story that Ray Parker Jr. has been talking about? So he's talking about being in Stevie Wonder's band, right?
with the drummer?
With the drummer.
Yeah.
But the key
Mm.
part that he's like, I didn't like the cat anyway. He said, I always wanted my own drummer in there. He's like, but things came to work out where he said, "You know, Stevie, I'm tired of you, man. Put a blindfold on me so I can fight Stevie." But he's talking about the fight. But what got me was is what you said was cats don't like him anyway. Now
Right.
Stevie plays drums as well. I can see Stevie telling this cat, "Oh, that's a pun right there. I can see Stevie. I could Stevie telling this cat to play a certain way, and the guy is not playing it." So, Ray Parker Jr. is like, "Man, I always wanted the cat out the band anyway, but it wasn't his band. It was Stevie's band. So you
Man,
just have to stick with it." And we've been in those situations like,
we have been in those
oh,
situations, dude.
man, he's like, "If you only got another this person, this would be so much better."
How many times does that happen? It seems like that this happens so often.
It does. I remember
You
you
know.
got me in a band and you left. I was like,
Well,
"Oh,
but that
man."
wasn't. Yeah, that's true. That's a true story.
But we say the same thing about a particular member of that band. We're like, "This is the only," they wouldn't show up to rehearsals. And we were like, "What? Why are we going here?" Just like what Vinny said, you got to be fair to the band.
We used to call it. Some catches have 9 lives, man. And
Until
you
they
can
age out. Until
that's
they age
usually what it
out.
is. It's
Right.
usually like a younger cat that
Right.
gets the rope, right? Gets the rope, gets the rope, gets the rope. Um, I don't know. I don't understand it. I know, and we've talked about this is where we're like, man, if that had been me or you, we'd have been gone a long time ago. At least that's how we feel. We don't know
Yeah.
that for certain, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this on a previous show, but man, some cats have the charm thing down, man. It's so much so that their level of like psychology on certain people, they just know how to
Manipulate him, bro.
manipulate and charm that person. We said, I've heard about it. People talk about that in the workplace, man. It's
Right.
like
Right. Right.
this person is clearly a bad seed, but he's
Right.
got somebody under
It's
a
belly.
spell, and they just won't let them go, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But at some point, yeah, you have to be fair, fair to the band. But I find that more. Don't you find that more with vocalists though? I mean, I'm not trying to single out vocalists, but
I was just about to say that.
it seems like that
Some
happens
vocalists.
more um with vocalists than with, instrumental artists. I'll say that.
Bro, I work with this one vocalist, and she put up some stuff with this member in the band, and I'm not even her normal piano player.
Right.
And I was like, "This is what happens?" She's like, "Yeah, this happens with him all the time." And I said, "This wouldn't fly with me. Why are you letting this go?"
Right.
And I'm like, and then there's a situation where I was in with this vocalist. Gig pays great. She's an incredible vocalist, but she's kind of like bipolar. I don't know if I'm going to be your friend or a professional.
Mm-hmm.
They have insecurities, so they take it out on me. Too
Mm-hmm.
loud, turn down. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're
Mm-hmm.
on stage in front of 8,000 people, and you're going to say that on a microphone?
Right. Right.
Or I mean, I'm like, dude, how many times can I handle this? And this was a great situation, but I'm like, you're not going to talk to me like that.
See,
You
but
know?
some cats don't. They'll take it because they want to
Right,
be in with that specific person. They want
right,
to, and they don't think about. It's like, man, there's a human respect factor in this too.
right, right.
You know,
Yeah.
big time.
I know a guy recorded with a major, well, didn't record, played the tour with a major artist, 12 years. And he was getting himself together. He says, "Hey, you normally hire this bass player when you do your recordings." He said, "I understand that bass player is great. Can I get at least on one song so I could build my resume for whatever, I want to do stuff?" And she said, "No, we're not going to do that." And so he had to come to the realization that he said, "Well, I'm going to get other work, or I'm going to be taken seriously if the person I play with, I never record on." She's like, "Yeah, this kind of this person is my guy that I go to. And he's on every one of my records." He's like, "But just one song?" She's like, "No." So he's like, "This tour is not going to do anything for me because nobody's taking me seriously as a recording person if I can't even record on the person I'm on tour with."
That's an interesting point.
And he cut her. And he had to go back to little coffee house gigs and stuff. And then I can't remember what he's doing right now, but he cut his losses and he lost out on a lot of money for the tour, but now he's in a better place. But he had to say, come to the conclusion, well, now I could either go back and play in a band and figure out to be in my place now, or say, okay, it's time to cut it, you know.
Right. Well, that's a little bit of, I think, the respect factor. Also, you know, when you're on, if you're touring, you're basically invisible to the audience. I mean,
Right,
they're watching the artist or whatever.
right,
And back in the time that you're kind of talking about, it was all about being on records,
right. And the
being on
more you're on
record.
tour, the more you are not on a regular scene. I mean, this is local musicians XP, right?
Right.
But if you're not
Exactly. You're
available,
gone. Right. You're going. Right. Yeah.
so it's a tremendous loss because now you got to work yourself back into
Man,
the scene.
that's a whole nother show that we
Yeah.
really got to talk about because um that whole thing of like, just guys tell, and I've had to deal with some of that, with
Mhm.
being gone. And dude, when you're gone, I mean, time doesn't stop. People don't stop
Nope.
working.
Nope.
And then also there's that trust factor of that people have to know that you're going to be there,
Right.
or and you're not going to be, take something and, and then, you know, a week out, something else comes up, you have to, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but that, you don't want to be that guy
Right.
that's always canceling on people.
Right. Right.
But I can see where he would have a valid point about, it's like, man, if I'm doing all, I mean, if you say but there was another, I'll tell you another story that's similar to that is, a friend of mine was working with, I think I told you this story. He was working with Al Jarreau.
Mhm.
He's just doing the tours. He wasn't on any records.
Mhm.
He was kind of, just he was in LA in the 80s. He's doing a lot of touring, but he was never on anybody's records. So he started thinking about that exact same thing. He's like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, man. He's like, I'm just guy for hire. He said,
Right.
that's all I am. He
Right.
said, I'm due for hire. And these tours don't last. They're like, you gone, for 6 weeks,
Mhm.
whatever. And then you got to find something else to do because you're not making any records.
Right.
But he came to that conclusion of like, you know what, man, I'm not the guy, I'm not the guy for this situation. So, and he ended up getting completely out of the industry because he was just
Wow.
tired of like the whole, and ended up in a better situation for himself, better
Mhm.
situation for his family. And because he was like, man, I'm in the rat race, what they call the rat race, right?
Mhm.
Are you constantly doing it? You're just chasing. You're just you're chasing that. And a lot of our, we all, I mean, we used to think like that, man, if we could be touring with so and so or touring so, man, that's what I want to do. And it's like when those situations happen, you're like, man, this is some BS because this is going to be over.
Right.
I come back to nothing, and then I got to chase something else down. Unless you're one of the few cats who gets on somebody's retainer
Right.
where you are their guy, right? But that's how many cats do we know like that? That's like making it to the NBA,
Right.
man.
And the
You know?
more you on tour, the more people forget about you when they can call you for gigs and they're not going to take it away. Like Atlanta is one of those places that's really cliquish. I don't know how Chicago was. but New Orleans was like,
Everything's cliquish, man.
but
Everywhere.
New Orleans, everybody worked with everybody. You get a call for whatever. But Atlanta is like, once you get a person in your band that knows your material and stuff like that, they don't want to go anywhere else. So, as long as they're supplying work for you, that's fine. If you get a sub that can handle it, that's fine. But it's not like you're gonna be going in and out of this person's band.
Right.
So I remember do you remember Brian Leach, guitar
Sure.
player?
Oh yeah, man. Great
So
player.
when I
Great
was
player.
talking to Brian one day, I said, hey man, I don't see you around anymore. He said, man, I was going to Georgia State for my master's degree. He said, David Frackenpole gave me gave me an assignment to learn and chart out a John Cole transcription and have it done by next week. He said, I started working on that. He said, I looked up and said, you know what? If I'm doing all this hard work for a John Coltrane solo, I might as well do all this work to be a lawyer. And he
And that's
did.
exactly what he did
He
too.
became a lawyer. And the next time I saw Brian Leach, guess where I saw him at? In Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He was working with Congress as a lawyer out there. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, people don't know how hard music is. He said, at that point, I was like, man, if I'm gonna do all this work, I might as well do something I'm gonna get paid to do, really paid to do.
Right. Right.
And so in that respect, in that regards, he's like, man, he cut his losses. He's like, this is not paying a dividends to the work that we're doing.
Mm-mm.
Oftentimes what you love is not going to pay what it's supposed to pay. So
No.
yeah.
But you have to the things that we have to piece together, right, to make what we do work on a financial level. Sometimes I think is people, but that's sort of if you want to, okay, you make a decision about that.
Yeah.
You make a decision if it's a whole different ball game if you're single.
Oh yeah. Peanut butter jelly sandwiches all day long.
You can live in we all know cats that they made that decision. Okay,
right.
I'm gonna be single, or the New York way where you got 5 cats to one apartment.
Right.
These are some of the greatest players in the world, man.
Right.
These are some of the greatest players in the world.
Yeah.
And but that gets old quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that when you're young, but you start getting a family together, or just as you mature, it's like that's not gonna. Now some guys, that's a simpler, just like we were talking about earlier. It's like, man, you can keep things simple, but that's a lonely existence, man. It's a lonely existence, but some guys, they live for the music,
Yeah.
and that's their decision. No harm, no foul. That's what they want to do. That's cool.
Right.
Most of us on once you start to get to a different level, it's not necessarily well, yeah. I mean, you just want to live a different lifestyle. You want a house. You want, it's like people used to think, oh man, when you going to New York? Like, well, I'm going to New York. I'm 30 years. This is like, years ago. I'm like, I'm not going to New York to struggle, like to get a $50 I mean, yeah, okay, I'll be playing.
You're not gonna hang out till 3:00 in the morning every night,
right? Exactly. We did that here. We used to do that at Churchill Grounds. You can do that here. And then go play video games in the parking lot. We used to do that. We used to do all that stuff here. If Ali is still in the chat, he can tell you all about it, man. But I'm not going to New York to struggle, have to, live with 10 cats, and then so for what? So so I can say that I'm on that I'm on the scene,
right?
I mean, that's some guy's dream, though, man. That's their dream. That's their dream. But I think there's other opportunities. It's just about surrounding yourself with the right people, following the right people's mentorship, man.
Right.
But that's something that I never really considered those days. I mean, yeah, if you maybe back in the 70s or even like maybe the early 90s, there was a resurgence of that. But even still, it's like, man, I'm not living like I'm not gonna live. I'm not gonna live like that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna live like that. So, um, it's it's uh it's a it's a tricky thing, but well, let's go ahead and close it out, man. I'm running out of a little energy here, but I guess in terms of because we are ultimately what we want to do and what we're hoping to do is to help young people out who want to try to get in this business or are trying to live their dreams out. It's hard to say who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. Because there's a lot of talented people out there. But to me, it's always the hardest workers. And I think
Right.
that's, um, just what eventually is going to always win out is hard work over talent. And, setting yourself up when you're beginning, we've often talked about this, right? Is you take everything. You take everything. And I mean everything. You don't turn nothing down. I don't care what it pay you, because think back to early on some of the situations that we did that didn't pay anything.
Nothing.
But
I
10,
learned.
15 years late, well, not only what you learned, but also who you meet on those gigs, who maybe this person at that time, everybody's struggling, right? It's not like somebody's hoarding a bunch of money and not giving it up. It's like ain't nobody got no money. You all are just in the same boat trying to get to the same place, right? So when you're in those situations early in your career, those are invaluable opportunities to.
Well, the reason why I said learn is because you would have to really pay cats. If a cat is going to have you on their gig and you're a young cat, you really should be paying for that education that you're getting. And Marcus Miller, when I was talking to Marcus Miller in St. Lucia, nice cat, man. Talked to me. He said, Miles Davis called me up and asked me to play with him. And I said, when and where?
Right.
He said, Miles says, I didn't even tell you how much you paid. He's like, I don't care about that.
No, right.
And he's like, well, it's pays a certain amount of money. And Marcus Miller said, I had already did the music from Luther Vandross and all. He's like, I was making money. I produced David Sanborn and all this.
Right.
And he's like, it wasn't about the money. It was what the education I was going to get with being with Miles Davis, just going through that,
Right. Right.
And so how many gigs have we had growing up as young musicians, not getting paid a lot of money, but we got the education that went with it. And I think some of these kids these days, they think they need the money. They can't, you're not on our level yet, yo.
Well, that's the whole thing, though.
You can't demand
you already are asking for a certain amount of compensation, and you haven't proven anything. You haven't done anything.
Right. You got
even on a local level, you haven't done anything. And but again, it's who are you listening to? What's your circle of, because if you got a bunch of you guys are just all pal, we talked about this before. If you're just palling up with your buds, you're never going to learn anything.
No.
Because you guys feel like you're in a certain situation or at a certain level that you're really not. And that's a really difficult thing to um to accept now, because everybody's telling you, man, everybody's great now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's great. I mean, how many times do you hear that? It's just like, are you serious? But they believe it.
Right.
And then when they get stuck, they get into a situation where they really see kind of where they are. That's a tough pill to kind of swallow. But
Right.
you know, you never I mean, and especially if somebody older calls you that is on a different level,
Mhm.
you just accept the gig. Now,
Yep.
if you find out later that you're working for this person and you find out that this person is screwing you over, okay,
Mhm.
that's a different situation,
Yeah.
which happens. It's not to
Mhm.
say that everybody that you know is older, they're always gonna do the right things. Because I mean,
But if the person has a certain amount of prominence, then at the very least, that can go on your resume. You still get
at
something
the
out of
very least, right? But it's
it. Right.
also about the journey and
Right.
who you never know who you're going to meet on these gigs.
Mhm.
And a lot of people that you end up with. I mean, we constantly go back to talking about playing with Adrian Fish, Miss
Yeah.
Fish, and
Yeah.
how man, we met so many people on that
Yeah.
gig. It's ridiculous how
Yeah.
many people we actually met at
Right.
that time that are still associates of ours, man.
Right. Right.
We might not work together necessarily, frequently or all the time, but stuff does come up every now and then. And it's
Right.
like, oh, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. Yeah, let's do
Right.
something.
Right.
And so just going back to what you were talking about is, the most important thing is relationships, man, is those relationships. And all the other things will kind of work itself out, man. But as an older seasoned guy, you've been through a lot of stuff. I know guys that, man, they're in situations that, man, they literally probably give their right foot to get out of them. But you can't, when you get stuck in situations like that,
Right.
it's difficult. I recommend, man, having some conversation about that with different people that you trust, and just say, man, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm going through. What do you think about this? What are some, maybe you're not asking for direct advice, but it's good
Mhm.
to have that dialogue and to say, man, you know what? I'm not happy about this situation. Because if you're just constantly hoarding that negative information inside, it's like, man, you'll never get out of it. You'll never
Right.
get out of it because you'll begin to believe it. You're like, oh, this is what I'm here to do. This is all that's good for me. And it's like, no, man, you got more to offer than that. But
It takes a risk too. I
it
mean,
takes a I was just yeah, it takes a
good.
risk.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
like you said, you got to bet on yourself. I mean, the great Mulgrew Miller, rest in peace. One thing he told me, he says, "You want to do?" I think I asked him. It's like, "How do you do festivals?"
Mm,
He's like, "You got to stop doing local gigs."
that's right.
I said, "But I can't afford to do that."
Right.
He said, "Well, you always gonna do local gigs then?" Like, dang.
Oh, that is painful to hear
It
that.
was very painful, and that's when I realized
That's so
I don't
painful.
have it for the festivals because I ain't sacrificing that part of my plan with
Right.
local gigs.
Right.
And I said, "Well, how do you do it?" He says, "When you got no money coming in, you try to create something." But I remember that when there was a particular club that they loved me playing with different people. When I try to get my own group in there, never get booked.
Right.
So I had to cut my losses. I had to
Had to
say,
cut your losses, man.
I'm not going to play this club anymore.
Not playing it. Not
And it's
playing it.
sad because I liked the place. They enjoyed,
That's right.
you
That's
know,
right. That's right.
they even played my CD in the club.
Right.
Now, how you can play my CD in the club and not have me play in the club,
Right.
bruh?
Right.
But
But
I was
that's,
like,
man, but this, like we talk about, man, that's just that, you know, going back to some a movie, Samuel L. Jackson, Jackie Brown, he's like, I can handle a lot of things. I can't handle no disrespect.
That was an epic movie right there, bro.
I can't handle
Jackie Brown,
disrespect,
bro.
man. Disrespect, man. That's on another level. That's what that
Right,
is,
right,
But you do, yeah. And it's hard. I mean, I'm about to go down this, you know, taking the lead and just going with my band, trying to
right,
really work with my band, and I'm bouncing a lot of stuff off of different people that I respect,
right.
and there's gonna there's gonna be some soul searching because I'm I'm a couple situations, man, that are kind of nice,
Right, right,
and but in order to get ultimately what I want to get, which is to be able to to work with my band on that level, it's gonna be some interesting time. So I gotta follow my own advice on this, which is not going to
you
be
have
easy.
that's right,
It's
that's right.
not going to be easy, but if you have faith, you have a good support system around you. And
Bet on
again,
yourself.
you just like you bet on yourself,
Yeah,
you know, but again, is that something that you can bet on? Are you strong enough to absorb? Because it's, talk to enough people, it's like being in leadership can be a lonely job,
can be. It is.
you know but leaders are born, they're not made.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that if you were born to be a leader, that's just something that you have to do.
Well, I think it'll be good for you because first of all, you're the type of cat that you have tunnel vision. Once you get into something, you're not gonna let anything, no matter what's going on around you, you're singularly focused. Person like me, who's like all can be all over the place. Sometimes it's hard for me to just focus on one thing. But for you, I think once you have to get in the mode of this is what I'm promoting, this is what I'm going out for, I
Yeah.
think it's not going to be a problem for you.
Well, that's something I had to learn because I used to be
Mhm.
the opposite of that.
Oh
you
wow, I
know
didn't know that.
yeah, it's just, jack of all trades kind of. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's what, I had to work hard at trying to find, really being able to, I guess, just concentrate on whatever's in front of me, right? Or know
right.
what my goal is. It took a lot of hard work, man. It took a lot
Yeah,
of, because I had to completely, I don't think that's a natural. Some people are just very natural at that, you know.
right, right,
Um, that was not something that was natural for me at all. So
right.
so but yeah, man, we enjoy y'all hanging out. We got some good friends in the chat we want to acknowledge real quick. Robert Boone Jr. says,
Boone, where you at Wednesday, bro?
ha 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 ha. That cat probably in Japan somewhere,
He
dude.
taking a rest, bro.
We gotta That's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, smart.
Boone's way ahead of the curve. He's like the young cat that I wish I had his sense of thinking at that age.
Yeah, yeah,
He's super ahead of the curve, man. But again, he listened to the right cats. He listened to the right people,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
And that is going to uh pay off. Tia Ricks gives us the thumbs up. What
Tia,
are you doing,
Tia,
Tia? Good to see.
Tia, Tia.
Uh,
Mark, what?
Mark, did the Knicks? I was forced to watch the Knicks the
Knicks
other night,
won.
man. My
They won.
mother-in-law was in town. She loves basketball. I was forced to watch the Knicks the other day, man.
What you thought about
Not much.
him? They won though the other night, man.
Yeah, they won. They won. But yes, our good friend Mark Podhorzer, who he might be coming on the team, bro. I gotta fill you in on some
Okay,
details.
okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
We might have to pull out the old
So Vinny on there, huh?
yeah, we got the Vinny Dag, who I just spent let me see. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 5 nights in a row with.
Wow.
Yes. Vinny was in the horn section
Okay.
of the band. So he was
What did he
playing
play?
Barry.
Alto or
He
tenor?
played Barry, man. He
Like
brought the
that?
Barry. Yes, sir.
Dang, holding it down.
Vinny, man.
Vinny can't even kiss anybody after this show.
That was a lot of shows, bro. Yes, it was.
Hey, bro, did I see Frankie Quinones in this chat?
He gave us, Frankie was here. You know, he probably dipped out. He come in, man, make an appearance. And dip out, man. You know how Frankie is. He got other.
He still owes me a beer from the Apple House, bro.
And I still got the cat's watch, man.
From still got his watch?
Yeah, man. He came over. We played, shot some video and stuff. Left his watch. Still haven't gotten it back. Bro, I hadn't seen him. So it's sitting on my dresser.
It might be some type of Movado or something like that.
It wasn't a Movado, but that mug was heavy though. I tried to wear it. I was like, "Ooh, I got a new watch." I put that thing on for about 2 seconds. I was like, "Oh no, I don't. I do not have a new watch." That thing was heavy. Oh yeah, Mark, you have a New York buddy in here, John Lamartina. who is clowning also the Knicks. Is Clyde Frazier still on the? Oh, that's cold. That's cold. Another New Yorker. So I think we also have brother Russ Rogers, bass player extraordinaire, who's in DC. Yep. Who's in DC now.
I keep forgetting he's in DC. I should look him up every time I go out there.
And also the great Andy Eula, bass player. Another New Yorker. A lot of New York cats in here, man.
A lot of bass players in here tonight, too.
Well, we start talking about bass players, so.
Guess I shouldn't be talking about them. Ah, too bad. I'm always going to talk about these bass players.
His name is Jalen. Oh, so that's the new Clyde?
Jalen Brunson is killing, though. He used to be on Dallas Mavericks team. They let him go. They traded him to New York.
Okay.
They beat the Bucks. Got to give it to him.
That's something.
Yeah.
Bucks are good. Man, I started shit, through my mother-in-law, she's got me. I started watching basketball again a little bit, man. Because you know me, I mean, it's just such a different game than when I used to really watch it, you know?
Right.
But I mean, athletically, it's ridiculous. It's like, this guy's this big and can move like that. This is crazy. You know,
and then what they've learned so much now about taking care of their bodies and eating and it's crazy.
Yeah, man. The sports science.
Yeah,
they know exactly what to put in to get that one muscle that they need. They know exactly how to target that. And we have a Notre Dame has this new wizard strength and conditioning guy coming in that used to be with the Broncos.
Oh, really?
He used to train McCaffrey and
oh wow.
So Marcus Freeman just hired him. So yeah, that's serious business now.
Are y'all playing in a bowl game?
Yeah, we're playing a toilet bowl, bro. I don't even want to talk about it. Anyway, Vinny says make the rim.
Be worse, you could be LSU.
I know. Well, I mean, that's who we were slated to play, but ACC blocked Notre Dame from playing in that game.
Oh, if
that's
that
why
would happen,
y'all are playing some team that's like, are you serious? Like some 6-6 team or something like
that. Would have been. I could have came over to the crib.
That was supposed to be the matchup because they want Notre Dame against Brian Kelly with the
Oh, that would have been perfect.
I mean, Jalen's not playing, but it still would have been a cool, for that to happen. But the ACC blocked them from it. So Vinny says make the rim 11 feet tall. What y'all think about basketball players? What you guys think about that?
Is that just for the New York Knicks?
You have to make it 5 feet tall so they can have some success, bro.
Yeah, the opponents get 11 feet. They get 5 on there.
Oh man,
that's still one of the best ones when you had the New York thing from Mark, man.
The collage.
Oh yeah, what did you call that?
I can't even remember.
Not
winning. We're not winning time.
We have not winning time. Oh man.
All right,
Oh,
guys.
man, good
Well,
show.
good show. We will see what how both of us feel. We might throw in another show this week, man, since we just
Yeah.
chilling at the house, and we might just have a chat, and bring in some cats, man. Talk about what they're doing,
Yeah.
and uh, and just have a little get together. Does anybody, man? Do you have a New Year's Eve gig? I am so glad I do not have one, man. You got a New Year's Eve gig?
I can't answer that question right now.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't, and I ain't.
You're not getting one?
Nope. That's a young man's game, dude.
It used to be
It used to be that. I mean, but
the biggest,
last one I did was with you.
but that one was easy too.
Yeah, it was. It was hell getting that equipment over there, but it was the gig was easy. Having to go through that doggone
Over the bridge and then down those stairs and then go up the stairs and come around.
man. Seemed like something I tripped or something stubbed my toe or so. I can't remember what happened.
I can't remember, but you went by the elevator one time to do it, and it took so long for the elevator. Like, man, we could have just hustled it up these stairs, man.
Man, on that little stage,
Yep.
which is no longer there, right?
No longer there, bruh.
So, oh well. All right, guys, we're gonna call it a night. And we'll let you know if we're gonna be on again this coming
Before
week.
the New Year, yes.
Because New Year's is
Monday, huh? Monday. Is it Monday night? New Year's Eve?
Monday. Yeah. Monday. Well, Sunday is New Year's Eve, right?
Okay.
And then yeah, so cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. And we will see you hopefully before. Who left a comment? Somebody said, I'll get one more up.
Rest up. Happy New Year.
Vinny says, rest up. Happy New Year. Yes, sir. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see y'all next time.
Peace.